We bring in Dean Cheng, brings detailed knowledge of China's military, space capabilities, and their strategy as well. Dean, good to see you. Is there an explanation for this latest test site other than they want to be able to fight a war offensively with the United States?
Not really. But let me note here, I'm not quite sure, again, why people are so surprised. There have been reports along these lines. There was a non-moving target identified roughly in the same area several years ago. That one actually had missile impact craters around it. It's very clear that the Chinese are working on a variety of carrier killer weapons, including anti-ship ballistic missiles. And as you go from the test, sort of the prototyping phase to deploying them in large numbers, you want to make sure they work. That the Chinese are doing this should come as no surprise to anyone.
You think about sort of the Chinese's rapid development here. Nuclear warhead production, now 350, 2027, 700, 2030, at least 1,000. What are we to believe the Chinese intentions are?
Well, if you listen to the arms control community, this is a bunch of folks who simply are just scared of us. We're the mean, bad people who are out there threatening everyone. And all China's doing is purely defensive. I think if you ask the Taiwanese, you ask the people in Hong Kong, you ask Vietnamese fishermen whose boats have literally been run over by the Chinese, it's a somewhat different view. Xi Jinping has been pretty clear that the China dream is the revival of the Chinese people and China reassuming its proper place in the world, which includes being the center of Asia. That's the same Asia, of course, that produces most of the world's microchips, most of the world's computers, and as the Biden administration will remind you, most of the world's solar panels.
And almost everything we buy on Amazon as well. How do the Chinese view the U.S. and view the U.S. response when we find out about stuff like this?
They view the United States as, frankly, an existential threat, not to the Chinese people, but to the rule of the Chinese Communist Party. But let me note, Xi Jinping and the Chinese leadership has long said the foremost priority for the CCP, for the Chinese Communist Party, is staying in power. So us being a threat to them being in power is an existential threat to them. What do they think when we find out about this sort of thing? They're probably not surprised. They know that we have satellites and things like that. I'm just kind of curious whether or not the Chinese were courteous and called General Milley to reassure him.
Nicely played, my friend. I guess, you think about this and the way China has evolved and their technology has evolved. They've gone from sort of being an army of peasants 20 years ago now to near peer with the United States. Not quite there, but certainly there within the next 5 or 10 years. And they've done a lot of it by stealing so many U.S. military secrets, whether it be with spies or with cyber espionage, the like. We've talked about it before. You think it's too late for the United States to put the Chinese back in their place without a war?
I think every day that we insist that somehow we should step back, we should be more conciliatory, lift sanctions on China, et cetera, is going to make it harder. But I don't think it's too late at all. Frankly, it is never too late. The question is always going to be, however, what price in blood are we going to have to pay if it comes to war? Because we chose not to put in the sweat equity beforehand.
Yeah, well, or the political capital as well that would be needed to take the Chinese on. Hey, Dean, incredible insights. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.